Crystal, and today I'm working on my 2018 Project Life album, and this is week 18. So I have the Citrus Twist Kits May Pocket Life Kit, and I've already pulled out a few cards and papers that I think I might want to use. The alpha that came in this kit is kind of a mint color or a kind of robin's egg blue color. It's this one here, which doesn't really go with what I have pulled out so far. So I decided to grab a navy alpha from my stash. This one is from Studio Calico, and it's a little bit bigger than I would like it to be. It's the only one in that color that I have though. So I've also grabbed some alpha stamps from Citrus Twist and some navy ink, and I may just stamp some things instead, but I'm not quite sure yet. I've also grabbed the rest of the things from the kit, some of the embellishments, and I've pulled out some die cuts from the ephemera pack that I think I might use. I also have the stamp set and the book lover stamp set as well. And then I also grabbed this card from my stash because this is the week of Cinco de Mayo and we did go out. I thought I might use it because I'm not sure when else I would use it. So I did grab it just to have it here in case I decide to go with that. Otherwise, I don't really have a plan, and I'm just going to play around and see what happens.
So as usual, I'm just going to start by trimming out my photos. I have these two square photos, actually 3 square photos that have a small white border around them. And then I have this odd shaped one. It was a landscape style photo, and I didn't want to make it a full 4x6 because it just didn't really seem necessary for it to take 2 whole spots in my spread. So I edited it down to 3 inches wide, and I'm just going to put it on a card or a piece of paper and use it as a smaller photo with a background. So I'm just trimming out the rest of these photos, and there aren't very many this week. It was actually a really busy week for us, and it seems that when we have busy weeks we tend to take fewer photos for some reason. So there's fewer photos of the things that we're doing, which is something that I'd really like to be better about. But it's hard when you're actually living life to remember to also photograph it. So I'm going to just lay these out on the spread and play around with where I think I might want them. And they'll move around a little bit as I continue working with the spread. But I get them to a place where I think they might work. And then I'm going to go to the cards and the papers that I've pulled out and start trimming them down and placing them where I think they might work best. So I have this 4x6 card that came in the kit, and I'm going to trim it down to 3x4 since I don't have any 4x6 spots in this spread, and I'm going to end up using that one as my title card. And I really like that card. I really like the sentiment on it, and I think it'll work really well as a title card, just not at 4x6, and it works fine at 3x4. So now I'm going to trim down the papers that I've already pulled out. I have a couple of these really gorgeous foiled papers from the kit, and I'm really excited to use that. So I'm gonna trim them down and place them where I think they might work. I'll end up moving, I think, almost everything around before I'm done here. And it hurt me a little bit, I'll be honest, to cut into these papers because they are just so beautiful. And I kept thinking, oh, if I didn't use them, I could use them for a traveler's notebook spread or something. But this is what they're for. This is what I buy the kits for. So I'd rather get them used up and get them in my album than have them sit in my stash and end up hoarding them. So I'm trying right now to get a good balance on my spread. Those darker papers with the navy blue background are feeling really heavy, and I'm trying to make it feel balanced, and also not have 2 of the same patterns right next to each other like I do right now. That definitely bothers me, so I know I'm not going to keep those there. So I'm just grabbing a different one, seeing if that will work instead, and it's still just not quite sitting right with me. So what I'm going to end up doing is taking that other darker paper with the foil on it and using it with there's 2 photos in the center of the spread that are of the mushrooms that Jessie found, mushroom hunting, and I'm going to use those 2 darker foiled papers to tell that one story. Since both of those photos are of really the same story, I'm going to put them together in the middle of the spread and use them to tell that one story. So now things are finally where I think I'm going to keep them. And I've got this Cinco de Mayo card, which is from an old Studio Calico kit. And I'm going to just fussy cut out the sentiment on it. I don't want to use the whole card because, for one thing, it's rounded corners, and I don't really like rounded corners in my spreads this year. And also, I think it'll look really good with this other really colorful patterned paper that I've got in the bottom. So I've fussy cut it out, and I'm just going to glue it onto that paper in a minute, once I'm sure that I like it there. But first I'm going to go through the die cuts that I pulled out and start placing them around the spread, just seeing where they might work, just kind of putting them down, picking them up if I don't like them there, and moving them around. Some of these aren't going to stay where I put them, but most of them will. So I'm just playing around and seeing what I like, and I really like the idea of having those stars repeated on 3 different cards in the spread, but ultimately they're only going to end up on 2, which is fine. It would be nice to have it in 3 places, but it really only worked on the 2, so I'm fine with that as well. So once I have all of those put down where I think I might want them, I'm going to go to the other embellishments that came in the kit. There are those labels, as well as these puffy stickers and some word stickers or phrase stickers as well. I'm just looking through, seeing if any of the sentiments really work with the photos that I have or the stories that I have to tell, and then also thinking about color. Because I have that yellow Cinco de Mayo bit at the very bottom of the spread, I definitely feel like the spread needs more yellow somewhere. So I'm keeping that in mind as I look for things that work with my stories. And I find one phrase sticker that I think will work. I'm not sure exactly how I want to use it on the spread. And then I'm also going to go back to these labels. There's a darker yellow label on this sheet that I'll end up using, so I'm going to start there, and that will bring that kind of mustardy yellow color into the spread in another place as well. So I'm going to trim that out, and then I think I'll use it with that mushroom photo in the center. At first I think that's where I'll put it, but it feels a little too close to that Cinco de Mayo card, so I'm going to end up actually moving it up to the card with the dog and cat, and then I'm going to use this pink label for that middle photo instead. So now well, first I'm just going to clean up the mess I made trimming that out, and then I'm going to go back to these other embellishments and think about where I want to use them. But I realized what I need to do first is to add my journaling. So I went away to my typewriter and I added all of the journaling that I wanted to add on those 2 cards, and then I'm ready to start gluing things down. So I'm going to start with that Cinco de Mayo bit and glue it down to the paper I have it placed on, and then add a label below so that I can add just a little bit of journaling. And since I didn't take any pictures of our Cinco de Mayo festivities, this is really the only thing I have to document it. So just a few lines to talk about what we did that day, in addition to the type journaling that I already have added to the spread. And then I'm moving on to this other photo of my cat in our friend's guitar case. And then I'm just adding that little bit of die cut there, which I really like the look of. It's not a great photo, so it doesn't bother me that the die cut covers part of the photo. And then I'm just adding just a tiny bit of journaling right there onto the photo. And this card had some journaling prompts for location and date, so I'm just writing in our hometown, and I'm just putting May for the date, since it's really about multiple days throughout this week. So I just decided to put the month instead, since the dates for the week will be on the title card eventually. So I'm thinking that this card needs a little something else in that blank space at the bottom, and I thought I might use one of the stamps, but I decided to go ahead and use that phrase sticker. It works pretty well, so I'm going to add it, and then I'm going to add a gold staple with my gold stapler, and I'm going to call that card done. So I'm not really sure where to go from here, but I end up just deciding to work with what I think I know that I want to use. So I know that I really like this tab behind this photo, it'll give me a place to add the date for this story. So I'm going to go ahead and glue that down. And then since these two photos are connected, this one and the one that's in that middle card, I'm going to use these arrows to point to the other card, the other photo that's part of the story, and I'm hoping that will kind of connect the two and bring the two together. That in addition to having the same background paper behind them. But I just want to include the day and the month, so I'm only inking part of that stamp to stamp on that little tab. It wouldn't have been big enough for the year anyway, and the year will be on the title card, so it's really not necessary to include again. And then I'm going to go ahead and glue this one down too, but I want to make sure that I get them even so that it kind of looks like it's one card, or that I still get that idea of it being a continuous story. So I want to make sure that they're in the same place on those cards, so I just line them up and then glue it down in the place where I had the other one. And then I'm going to add this label for just a few lines of journaling, which I'll add with my gel pen. And then I think that's pretty much it for those two. So I'm moving on to this top card. And I really liked this little tab that was in the die cut pack with this kit. And I'm going to add it to the top of the photo and glue it down, but I'm also going to add a staple. And I really like the texture that this adds to the spread. It makes that little tab pop up a little bit when I add the staple, and I really like the way that looks. So I'm going to glue it down to the paper that I have in the background, and then add this little yellow label for just a few lines of journaling specific to this photo. And then I'm also going to include that star, but I'm really not sure where I want to put it, so I play around with a few places where I think it might work. Tucking it under the photo, tucking it under the label, under the tab, and ultimately it's going to end up right there. It's going to end up on top of the label right next to it. And then I'll just add a staple and call this one all done. So I'm almost done. I have just a couple more cards to work on. I'm going to add a few more staples throughout the spread just to add some continuity, and then I'm going to move on to this photo. So I think that I want to use the two stars that I have pulled out from the die cut pack, but I'm thinking I also would like to include one of these phrases or maybe a stamp. But the stamp is really too long. There's not a lot of space, and unless I turn it to the side, it just won't fit. So I'm thinking maybe I will use one of the phrase stickers instead. And then to make it so that there are 3 stars instead of just 2, I'm going to add one of the stars from the puffy sticker pack. And I choose this one that has that's mostly pink, since there is a lot of pink in this spread. It seems to work the best. So I'm going to go ahead and glue those stars down. And I do make sure that the larger one, or the largest one, does hang off the side of the photo a little bit so that it interacts with the edge, and I just really like the way that looks. Then I'll add a staple to the top one, and then I'm going to go ahead and add that phrase sticker that I was thinking about below those, just directly onto the photo. And I'm also going to hang it off the edge and trim it off. Again, just I like the way that looks, and it works with the star that I did the same thing with. So all that's left to do now is to work on my title card. So like I said before, I have these dark blue kind of navy alphas from Studio Calico, and I think I might want to use them just because they're the only navy alphas that I have. But I think that they might be too large, and I'm definitely correct. Like, I tried to pull one off and put it on the card, but it just isn't working. Week is definitely not going to fit as a whole word. And then as I put these on, it still just looks too big. And to make things even worse, there aren't any numbers on this set. So I would have to come up with a different way to add the number anyway. So I just decided to work with the stamps. So this is a alpha stamp from Citrus Twist. And I have 2 of them because the first one they sent out was missing the letter V. So they sent out a correction, which actually works out really nice because now I have 2 E's to stamp out the whole word week without having to stamp part of it and then add the rest of it. and possibly not get it lined up correctly. And so it's actually really nice to have 2 sets. But what I don't realize is that this is week 18, not week 17. So I go through all this trouble of getting the stamps all lined up the way I like them, and I stamp out week 17 instead of 18. And I don't even realize it until after I'm completely done with this video and I go to take the close-up photos of this spread. So I end up fixing it, and you'll see that in the photos that what I end up doing is just taking a bit of scrap paper and stamping the 8 and then fussy cutting that out and just gluing it right over the 7. And it ends up looking fine. I mean, you can definitely tell that something's glued on top and that I definitely made a mistake. But it's not terrible. I'm fine with it. And it's better than leaving the wrong week number on or not being able to use this card, which I really love. So it's fine. It is what it is, and I will hopefully pay better attention next time. So I'm going to add the dates of the week with my roller date stamp just below where I stamped week 17. And then I'm going to add one of those little star puffy stickers to the middle of those dates to separate them. I'm just thinking about which one I want to use. And I'm really thinking about, because there's an odd number of them, I think I'll probably use 3 and 3. So I just want to make sure that I have matching ones for the next project that I use those on, so that I can have matching ones in sets of 3. And I think maybe I'm done, but it just needs a little something else. So I'm going to grab another one of these phrase stickers and add it to the top of the title card. And then I am going to add just a little staple, and then I'm going to call this one done. So that's it for this week. Stay tuned for some close-up photos, and be sure to like this video if you found some inspiration. And if you're not already subscribed, be sure to subscribe so that you'll get notified when I upload new videos. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Have a great day.